Forget gurus. Forget anyone claiming to be an online business expert without going through the challenges of entrepreneurship themselves. The Real Money, Real Business podcast is here to prove the best insights in online business comes from your fellow online business builders. We dig into stories of entrepreneurs selling their business on the Empire Flippers marketplace so that you can learn how they made their business profitable, how they overcame obstacles, and what lessons they learned in their online journey. If you want to take your business and your knowledge to the next level, you've come to the right podcast. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Real Money, Real Business podcast. We record these interviews so potential buyers can learn more about the business and the seller to help them make a buying decision. Now, all of the business details, which include the type of business it is, how much revenue and profit it makes, and all of the assets included in the sale can be found on the business listing. To view this information, you can visit empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for this business listing number, which is listed in the video thumbnail and the description. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, you can click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. And if after listening you want to take an even deeper dive into the business to perform your due diligence before potentially purchasing this business, you can unlock this listing to look through all of the business information, which includes the domain, the products, the P&L, and more. So can you tell us a little about your background in building and running online businesses?
So my name is Joe Verschoor, and my educational background, I went to Iowa State University. I have degrees in statistics and mathematics. My professional background has nothing to do with my degrees or my educational background. I worked in 4 years in SaaS and cloud-based sales for a company called Workiva. It was financial reporting, cloud-based software used by publicly traded companies and by government entities. And my e-commerce background, I'm in my third year of e-commerce business management. As far as how I came up with the idea to start this business, it was really a matter of finding the business model that made the most sense for my particular situation. And the model that made the most sense for me at the time was some sort of high ticket e-commerce, ideally drop shipping. I lived in an apartment at the time, obviously had no capacity for overhead. And as far as just how lucrative the model is compared to other e-commerce models, the thing that really spoke to me about high ticket drop shipping in particular was A, the margins per sale, and almost more importantly, B, just how targeted it can be with intent-based marketing. Actually advertising to people that are specifically searching for these products on Google. Obviously, the challenge lies in finding a good niche, because if you approach this trying to sell something like Samsung televisions, you're not going to have a lot of luck, because you're going to be drowned out of the water by much larger companies and by much more established businesses. It's just a much more saturated marketplace. So as far as how I landed on my niche without being too specific about it, it was a combination of several things. For one thing, the amount of competition is significantly lower than a lot of other niches that I was considering at the time. And I would say that still holds true to this day. Another big factor was just the margins on the actual products themselves. And so a big factor, if you want to be competitive as a high ticket dropshipping business, you pretty much have to offer free shipping to customers. And obviously, the larger and heavier an object is, the more expensive it will be to ship. And so that was something that was really appealing for me, was not only were the margins excellent from the suppliers to begin with, but they're not very expensive to ship. And so as far as actual profit margins go per sale, this niche just struck me as very, very advantageous and continues to do so. So those are really the two main reasons why I selected the niche and continue to work with the niche that I have today.
So why are you selling the business now instead of keeping it and growing it further?
I always started this business with the intent to sell it one day. I've grown it slowly over the course of 2.5 years. And for me, where I'm at in my life, where the business is at, and with the intent that already existed to sell this one day, the timing feels right, mostly because it's very much on a strong growth trajectory. and I believe it will continue to do so. It continues to mature and improve and stand out as a brand over time in as good of a place to sell as it ever will be at this very moment. Keeping in mind that I always had the intent to sell this when I first started building it, I've always had the motivations to sell it. It was just kind of a matter of when. And as many sellers will likely tell you on here, one of the huge benefits of building your own e-commerce business is the potential to sell it one day. And obviously the payday that comes with it is something that's extremely motivating for me and for a lot of other sellers and e-commerce business owners. So that's the main motivation. It's always been something that I intended to do. Again, it was just a matter of when it would happen.
What did you learn from building this business that worked for you? Or what do you think contributed to the success you experienced with this business?
What I did that worked and what I did that didn't work, these are questions that I could spend 2 hours talking your ear off about. If we had to look at it at a 10,000 foot view, what I would say the biggest thing that stands out in my particular niche is the quality of my website compared to my competitors. This niche, at least before I entered the space, it's always been very much populated by older businesses. It serves kind of an older demographic as in age. So it's a lot of websites that are somewhat outdated, just a lot of cheap HTML, a lot of cheap WordPress websites that don't look, frankly, nearly as good as mine. So that's one thing, is utilizing the Shopify platform and the excellent themes that it provides to actually make a very user-friendly website for this niche. On that similar vein, I would say my product niche can be somewhat nuanced as far as knowing how to buy the right product, and as far as knowing just certain specs about the products and trying to figure out how to buy the correct thing for any given customer. And so what my website does, in contrast to quite a few others in the space, is I take these somewhat complex, not very complex, but to someone that's never bought them, they can be, and nuanced products, and break them down into a very easy and straightforward buying experience. And I would say my customer support reflects this. If I had to summarize all of this into one point, my website is very user-friendly and makes a very easy and straightforward buying experience. It leaves the user with very little confusion as to what to buy. On top of this business, being mature as it is at this point, is a BBB accredited with an A+ rating business. Just because of the niche that I'm in, like I said, I do serve kind of an older demographic, especially because of the price point of the products that I sell. It needs to convey a very large amount of trust. And this is very much conveyed through the website itself, but also just with the support that I provide. Aside from the website itself, what I've done that has also improved the business and what has worked over time is just the optimization of Google Ads. Again, Google Ads is one of the most powerful tools in all of e-commerce. And over time, your ads will really only become more and more mature, as I've learned. And it's really been a matter of just optimizing them, making them much more targeted by, managing my negative keywords and making sure that all ads and all campaigns are showing up for the correct terms. And then obviously actually significantly lowering ad spend over time and increasing the profit margin. So I would say just over time, my ads have become much more optimized and targeted. And that's been part of it, both a learning curve for myself, but also that's the nature of this type of business model.
Got it. So was there anything you tried that didn't work out as well?
So I would say on the very front end of building this business, my niche was too broad. There were too many large product umbrellas that I offered on my website. Through this, it was kind of a double-edged sword, because while I was offering a lot of different product types, my website didn't come off as an authority in any of the particular niches. It kind of just seemed like this general store with a bunch of different, basically unrelated, expensive products. Over time, I noticed that one particular product niche sold more than all of the others that I had on the store at the time. And so I ended up narrowing down to only that. I rebranded the entire website to only that, changed the domain to reflect that niche. And again, this was 2.5 years ago now. That was what really became the early on game changer for the trajectory of my business. Being a very, very targeted and coming off as an authority in the particular product space that my store carries. What else I did that did not work? I would say my biggest regret as far as business expenses was an email marketing service that I paid in my second year of business. And because email marketing was something that in the first year and a half, I very much neglected, mostly because I am not a great content writer to begin with, but also I had never been crazy about having an email pop up on my website that asked for people's emails. I've just never liked how it interrupted the user experience. And so I never really put too much focus on the email marketing, at least on the front end. And on top of that, offering a discount code or something similar when someone types in their email and subscribes to email or SMS or both. With some of my suppliers, it actually violates their MAP policies. And because of that, and because it interrupted the user experience, I never really focused on it too much. And so I ended up moving forward for either 6 or 7 months in the second year of business with an email marketing service it's like somewhere in the $3,000 to $3,300 range per month. And while they did provide a good service and they provided good quality work, I still have the email drip campaigns to this day for any email subscribers. It really didn't provide a massive ROI, mostly because just this particular business model, it's not like selling cheap products and being able to easily remarket to people and getting them to come back and buy. The products are just way more expensive, and the customers just act and interact with the business differently than, a lot of otherwise low ticket stores. So not to be too long-winded, overall, the email marketing service was not really a necessary component of the business, which is why I discontinued it in my second year of business. And yeah, I would say that's another big thing that did not work or did not go well for me.
Can you describe the amount and the type of work that you do on this business to maintain it?
Since this e-commerce business has been my brainchild for the last several years, I would say there's a very big difference between the work required and the work that I choose to put into it. The work required really only consists of, definitely not unique to my business, it's pretty much the same as any other e-commerce business, responding to customer requests, which depending on the time of the year, that can be either 5-ish or less. I would say even less, 3 to 5 hours a week, or upwards of 6 to 8 hours a week, depending on the time of the year. And on top of that, another piece of required work is obviously any communications with the suppliers, paying invoices, although most of that is kind of on autopilot, and dealing with any type of purchase orders or pretty much anything related to supplier relations. So total required work, again, very much dependent on the time of year, I would say is between 4 and 8 hours. What I choose to put into it, I'm always trying to improve the product pages. Recently just got a new supplier with a whole new product list, in the process of getting onboarded with them, creating graphics just on Canva, just making the store look nicer, reducing the page load speed just by optimizing images, basic stuff that all kind of falls under the umbrella of website improvement. One other piece of required work I did not mention is Google Ads maintenance. Again, my Google Ads account is very mature at this point, so the amount of maintenance required now is much less than what it used to be. I would say I'd check it on a weekly basis and adjust bids if needed, and that can kind of depend on the time of the year. But beyond that, I just again, I guess it isn't required, but I choose to filter out negative keywords as necessary, because I do like to stay consistent with filtering out the negative keywords and continuing to improve and optimize my Google Ads. Again, to summarize all of that, from handling customer requests to working with suppliers to Google Ads maintenance, I would say it's anywhere from 4 to 8 hours a week, depending on the week and depending on the time of year.
Now, if you were to keep the business, what are some ways you would try to grow it?
I would say that the biggest growth opportunity, although there are several, the biggest one would definitely be the website SEO development. while this is not something I've neglected by any means over the years of running this business, it's definitely something that very much has a lot of room for improvement, optimizing for specific keywords on the website. Again, the website has a lot of very good on-page and on-site SEO, and it has a high domain authority. It has a high page authority. But again, just as far as what is worth very much looking into as far as growth opportunities, it would definitely be the SEO development. On top of that, I work with 9 different US-based suppliers, and each one of those suppliers, it kind of varies from supplier to supplier. They have massive price lists. Over the course of running my business, just because I know what sells the most and what carries the highest profit margins, I focus on a very small percentage of all of the products that are available to me through my supplier relationships. And so I think a huge growth opportunity, whether I was to continue running the business or for anyone would consider buying the business, would be to expand just the product types that are marketed, because within the niche, there are quite a few different product types that are closely related, and a lot of them are very expensive. I just know that in the course of me having this business, I know what has sold well, and I place a lot of focus on those product types. So I would say increasing the amount of product types, and on that similar vein, getting new supplier relationships. Because this business has the age that it does, and it's a relatively established brand in this space, getting new suppliers at this point is not very difficult to do. So obviously each supplier you get a bunch of more potential products to list on the website. And so increasing the products and increasing the suppliers is another big area of growth. I would say those are the biggest two: is A, SEO, and B, increasing the supplier count and just the amount of product types that are marketed on the store.
And what are the biggest risks with this business that a buyer should be aware of?
I would say the risks associated with this business are not unique to this business or to this business model. I would say the biggest risk associated with it would be just economic uncertainty. And again, that's true for any business. Like I mentioned in another question, the demographic that this business serves is about as recession-proof as you can find. But again, no demographic is entirely recession-proof, period. And so to summarize, the biggest risk associated with this business would quite simply be, any recession, any fluctuating economy. And again, it's not unique to this business, but I would say that's the biggest risk associated with it.
And how much support are you willing to offer a buyer who acquires this business?
Every e-commerce has its own nuances. Every e-commerce business is unique in its own way. And I fully recognize this, and this business is no exception to that principle. I'm more than happy to offer, obviously, the standard 30-day phone support and just the standard 30-day support. Again, as the products can be somewhat nuanced, just depending on the situation, my website does a very good job of making a very easy buying experience for the customer. But should a customer reach out with a question, whether it's over email or over the phone or whatever you choose to leverage, should you buy this business, you obviously want to be able to answer the question for the customer, or if they're asking for a recommendation or asking to send them a quote, you obviously want to be able to know how to do that properly. And so it really wouldn't take too long to just sit down and talk about the products and just going over basic product knowledge. But I'm more than happy to provide as much product support as needed. I will say a big key to success in this particular niche is having the proper product knowledge, which again, the website very much conveys, but also being able to offer that to any customer that reaches out will guarantee a lot of success. And that's, again, not unique to my business, very much true for any online business or business in general, but that's one piece of support I'm very much more than happy to offer. Obviously, happy to walk through my Google Ads accounts, talk about which campaigns I use during which times of the year, which campaigns are the most important, which ones I focus on the most. I would say those are really the two biggest umbrellas of support that would be needed. And then on top of that, obviously, leading introductions with suppliers and just transitioning all contact information and just introducing all of the contacts that I use at each individual supplier. I will say in that regard, there's really only 3 or 4 primary best-selling suppliers. So kind of going back to the point on potential growth, although I have 9 suppliers, really only 3 or 4 of them are my best sellers. And so there's a lot of opportunity to maximize those other suppliers should you choose to. But not to get off track, I would be happy to facilitate all transitions within supplier relationships. The short of it is I'm happy to provide any support that's needed. I will say I'm not willing to spend the next 2 years of my life continuing to run this business or offer support. But on top of the standard 30 days, I'm happy to provide as much help as needed within reason. Because at some point, I do want to just move on and hand this business off. And, that's why I'm selling it in the first place. So,
And regarding the sale of this business, just confirming you commit to a non-compete?
yes, I confirm to commit to the non-compete as laid out in Empire Flipper's terms of service.
And are you open to negotiating something like an earnout?
I will kind of default to the most common answer to this question. I would very much prefer upfront cash. This is not an absolute. I am open to considering earnout based on the details and based on the buyer. But obviously the preference here is upfront cash or a very large majority of the cash upfront in an earnout situation. So again, I'm open to negotiations. I'm open to discussing more, again, depending on the details and depending on the buyer and the situation. But the biggest preference here is an all cash payout.
Now, putting yourself in the shoes of a buyer, why do you think this is a business worth buying?
One other reason why I think this business is very much worth buying is because it has only ever seen year over year, month over month growth. And a huge piece of that is, lowering the costs associated with the business, knowing what products have sold the most over time, and understanding the nature of the customers and understanding the nature of the products. And all of that has been poured into this website, which has made it more and more successful over time. And all of that has also been poured into the Google Ads account because, obviously I know what keywords and what specific things that people are searching for when they're shopping for these products. So to summarize all of those, this niche is excellent. The products are cheap to ship. They have excellent product margins. The customer demographic is about as recession-proof as you can find. And because of the continuous growth over time, this is about as advantageous of a time to buy this business as there will ever be. Again, it's only ever seen year over year growth. And as time goes on, the list price, knock on wood, will probably only increase just as the average profit margin and the average net profit over time steadily increases as well. So it's for those reasons I think that this is very much a business worth considering to buy.
Is there anything else you'd like to add that you think I might have missed during the interview?
I think that's all. Hope this provides some good clarity or some better context as to who I am and what this business is or how it's operated, the advantages of it. So I'm happy to hop on a call or answer any questions as needed. Hope this was valuable and really appreciate your consideration.
All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. To learn more and see if this listing is still for sale, head over to empireflippers.com/marketplace and search for this business listing number, which is listed in the video thumbnail and the description. And if you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description to go straight to the listing. And once you've unlocked this listing, you'll be given everything you need to know about this business. So thanks for joining us, and until next time.